In the beginning, 12 apostles existed until Ea, God's daughter, found her 6 apostles, making the world a better place. God exists and lives in Brussels in an apartment with his wife he never loved and daughter he abuses. He has 2 children, a highly regarded son and a 10-year-old daughter. Long ago, God created Brussels out of boredom. In his office, he makes different creations with his computer. Realizing something's not right, God created a man. A man named Adam is born and placed with the censored bar on his manhood. He explores the empty city as God watches, delighted with his creation. Adam wanders around and meets a woman named Eve. Later that night, they sleep together. Months later, a child is born and more siblings reproduce as the family grows bigger. In the present, Ea lives a melancholic life, born and raised in the apartment her whole life. The apartment consists of 3 bedrooms, a kitchen, laundry, and her father's office, where no one is allowed. As a prisoner in her own home, she is forbidden to watch anything but sports on TV. Ea's pitiful mother embroiders flowers and gets pricked by the needle, causing her to flinch. This angers her husband, telling her to be quiet as he watches TV. When she isn't embroidering, she admires her baseball card collection. God opens the empty fridge and his wife approaches to close and reopen it, suddenly filled with beer. Ea opens the empty pantry and closes it again for biscuits to appear. She takes the biscuits and leaves while her father scolds her to eat at the table. God checks on her to find Ea showering. Preparing for dinner, Ea's mother sets a 4th plate for her dead son, hoping he'll return. God orders her to put it away, knowing he'll never come back. The pubescent girl arrives wearing makeup and uses telekinesis to move the glasses of milk until God scolds her to stop, telling her she's not like her brother. Ea rebels and says he's mad because he doesn't have powers like them. God mockingly shows his office key without the need for powers. After dinner, God goes to his office. Meanwhile, his wife cleans with a vacuum, and her husband shouts at her to be quiet. His wife then cleans a figurine of Jesus Christ, also known as JC, her son, and misses him. God made humankind so he could watch them struggle. He plays and burns model houses, rains on cities, and simulates a plane crash with his toys. He finds amusement in giving people a lot of misery with little happiness, giving them false hope. After attaining great skill, God invents laws making people's lives inconvenient. These include making people sleep an extra 10 minutes, a telephone ringing when someone gets in the bath, a slice of bread falling jam side down, dishes breaking if washed, and many more. Later, God leaves with the office door open. Ea notices this, sneaks inside, and looks through her father's computer, shocked to discover that he's been causing disasters to humanity. The next morning, Ea intensely stares at her father. She reveals that she's disgusted with his actions towards humanity. Ea's mother is speechless, and God realizes his daughter went into his office. Enraged, he chases Ea and repeatedly whips her with his belt as she wails in pain. At that moment, Ea decides to make a change. With one goal in mind, she wants to be better than her father and make him suffer. Later, God falls asleep while Ea packs her bag. She approaches the figurine of her brother and asks for help. She tells him that she wants to find new apostles, but JC says he's already tried 12. Ea asks him how many apostles to recruit, and he tells her 6 to make up 18 apostles. Just like their mother's favorite number, enough to make a baseball team. JC advises her to follow her instincts when selecting an apostle and give them a miracle. With those 6 apostles, she must write a brand new testament. However, the young girl doesn't know how to write, so she must find someone to do it. JC reveals that he hacked their washing machine for Ea to escape and tells her how to activate it. He reminds her to disable God's computer since he's powerless without it. Moments later, as God sleeps, Ea gets his key, enters his office, and goes through his archives to recruit 6 people. Afterward, she uses his computer and sends all the people their death dates. Everyone receives a text with their death dates contemplating their life. Before leaving, Ea disables the computer. She runs to JC to tell him what she's done, leaving JC stunned. The young girl heads to the washing machine and activates it. Suddenly, a passage appears, and she crawls through the tunnel. Meanwhile, a woman bathing listens to the news about the death dates. Worried, she learns she has 2 minutes left to live. She spots a hairdryer near her bathtub and removes it. The woman checks her house, ensuring things are safe. She spots a can on the top of a cabinet and pushes it, making the cabinet crush her. The news broadcasts a man who has 102 years left to live. Another man with 67 years left tests the accuracy by jumping off a building but survives by landing on a stranger. A nurse and a patient watch the news and check their death dates. The old patient reveals he has 12 years while the nurse has 64 days left, saddened by her patient outliving her. At the apartment, Ea's mother doesn't find Ea home. That night, a mother named Rosalie receives the text with 10 months left, and George, her son with Down syndrome, with 16 years. They go to bed as Rosalie thinks about George's future. She goes to George's room and suffocates him. George wakes up and stops Rosalie, and they cry together. The following morning, God wakes up to the news about the death dates leaking. He notices his key missing, infuriating him, and breaks his door. God discovers his computer is disabled and realizes Aya has done it. An enraged God looks for his daughter, who is nowhere to be found. He finds the passageway and shouts for Aya to return. Aya lands in a laundromat, amazed as she experiences freedom for the first time. She eats from the garbage and vomits shortly after, until Victor, a homeless man, tells her it's because of the fish burger. Aya asks the man if he can write, to which he says yes. She asks if he can bring her to the address of Aurelie, the first apostle, but Victor is uninterested. Aya follows him as he reasons to her that he's dyslexic. He finally gives in, and Aya asks him to write the brand New Testament. He questions if she can turn water into wine just like Jesus, but Aya replies she can't. They venture around while the homeless man carries the tired girl. At dawn, they head to Aurelie's home while Aya tells Victor they're in paradise, but he doubts it, claiming paradise is after death. Aya reveals that there's nothing after death since her brother got himself killed. Curious, Victor asks who her brother is, and she replies it's JC. He mistakes JC for Jean-Claude Van Damme, a famous actor, leaving Aya clueless. At home, God prepares to look for Aya. His wife warns him, angering him more because the amusement he once found in people unaware of their deaths has changed now that they can decide what to do with their lives. Unable to fix his computer, he worries about the consequences of Aya ending up like JC, who tried helping people. God berates his wife, heads to the washing machine, and squirms his way out. Arriving at Aurelie's home, Aya reaches Aurelie through the intercom, wanting to talk to her. Aurelie, the first apostle, opens the door. Upon discovering her death date, she didn't change her lifestyle. Men love Aurelie, but most women think she's a harlot. However, she lives a lonely life despite her kindness and beauty. Aurelie reveals that her arm was ripped off by a subway train but is now replaced by silicone. At the metro, Aya introduces herself and asks Aurelie to share about herself while Victor writes. Aurelie shares that a man told her, "Life is like a skating rink since many people fall," a phrase that has always stuck with her. Aya asks the woman if she'll get old, but Aurelie replies that she'll eventually die as she sheds a tear. Aya collects her tears in a vial because Aya doesn't know how to cry. The young girl can hear people's music and listen to Aurelie's heartbeat. She says Aurelie is Handel and that she'll invent a dream for her. Later that night, Aurelie wakes up, hearing Handel play. She approaches the music and is greeted by a hand figure skating. Victor and Aya head to the next apostle, and Aya asks Victor when he'll die. He says he doesn't know because he's never had a phone. Meanwhile, God struggles to get out. The two arrive at Jean-Claude's home, the second apostle, but discover he's staying on a park bench, so they head there. He once worked at a shopping center and then moved to corporate. Now 58 years old and single, he lived a boring life with a 9-to-5 job until he received his death date. Upon discovering this, he destroyed his suitcase and decided to sit on a bench and never move again. As Jean-Claude admires his surroundings, a bird fascinates him. A day passes and he observes the bird. Aya interviews the man as Victor writes. She listens to his heartbeat and tells him his song. The bird perches on Aya's finger and she communicates with it. Aya says the bird likes Jean-Claude and the man follows it when it flies away. In the tunnel, God reaches the end as the washing machine turns on. Afterward, he crawls out and a threatened woman sprays him with pepper spray. He traces Aya's scent and eats a burger from the trash. Suddenly, several men beat up God for eating out of their garbage. He ends up in a hospital and asks the doctor for heavy painkillers, but the doctor refuses. So God pushes him and leaves. Starving, he grabs a kid's bread and the child's mother beats God with an umbrella, causing the bread to fall jam side down. Victor and Aya meet Mark, the third apostle, with an excessive sexual desire. Mark remembers when he was at a beach and saw a German lady in a bikini, building his sexual frustration. Growing up, he met other girls but had trouble interacting with them. The awkward man practices his lines to flirt with women, only for them to ignore him. After finding out he had 83 days left, Mark decided to plunge his money on women. Since then, he's become satisfied until he runs out of money. Aya listens to his heartbeat and tells him his song is "Oh Solitude," as it is written for a voice like his, and he could earn money by singing. Soon, Mark becomes a voice actor for adult films and befriends his coworker. Mark realizes she's Xenia, the German lady he saw decades ago. Later, they get along and sleep together. At the apartment, Aya's mother experiences peace with her husband gone. She notices 15 apostles instead of 12 in the Last Supper painting. With nowhere to go, God settles in a church to eat. He impatiently skips the line, but a man pushes him back. Infuriated, God grabs the food and gets beaten. Moments later, a priest consoles him, but God criticizes the priest and Jesus. Pushing the priest to his limits, he beats up God while JC's face on the crucifix smirks. Aya and Victor meet Francois, the fourth apostle. After learning his death date, he purchased a rifle to shoot a person, but should he miss, it wasn't the person's day to die. However, if they died, it wouldn't be his fault because their death was predetermined. Francois has always had an odd fascination with death. As a kid, he loved killing animals. Now 41 years old, Francois has a family unaware of his death obsession. Francois was a victim of God's law, stating once a man falls in love with a woman, there's a great chance of separating. He heads to the park with his rifle to shoot someone. Aya tells Francois he's the fourth apostle, listens to his heartbeat, and says his song is The Death and the Maiden, a sad but beautiful song that compliments Handel. Aya instructs Francois to kill a woman with chestnut hair, handing him a bullet. The assassin aims at Aurélie and shoots her silicone arm. Victor claims it's a miracle, while the confused Francois follows Aurélie and starts to fall in love. The following day, he brings her flowers with his number written on the wrapping and expresses his love. Jean-Claude continues to follow the bird as it joins its flock in a lavender field. The fifth apostle, Martine, continues to live a lavish lifestyle to fill her void. At her home, Aya and Victor listen to her story. She reveals that her husband is comforted, knowing he will outlive her. She decided to cheat on her husband with an escort, but the guy stole from her. Aya listens to her heartbeat and tells Martine that she has circus music. Afterward, they go to a circus and Martine falls in love with the gorilla. Martine cries and Aya collects her tears. Moments later, the woman buys the gorilla and arrives home. Victor sleeps outside, claiming he can't sleep unless he sees the sky because of his traumatic experience. He was wrongfully imprisoned and couldn't stand sleeping with a roof over him, afraid of being locked up. That night, Aurélie calls Francois, asking how he loves her despite not knowing her. He says he shot her, but she didn't die. She checks her prosthetic arm, sees the bullet, and invites him to her place. Francois arrives and Aurélie shows him her prosthetic arm. Both in love, they sleep together. Exhausted, God returns to the laundromat but doesn't find the passage. The next day, he stumbles upon Aya and Victor and corners them at the dock. God tells Aya to come home, but she refuses because she's happy and needs one more apostle. God insists there are only 12 apostles, just like in a hockey team. Aya's father approaches until Victor stands in his way, prepared to fight while Aya goes down the dock. God mocks Victor, standing as if he's Bruce Lee, before seeing Aya walking on water. God and Victor look at the girl in shock as Aya calls Victor to come with her. As they walk across the canal, God follows them but almost drowns in the water. Later, he gets rescued by the churchgoers, and the priest sends him to the Uzbeks. The sixth and last apostle is a child named Willie. Growing up, Willie has always been sick, and his mother saw him as a burden. His mother always gave Willie strange injections until he got hospitalized. Upon finding out he had 54 days left, his parents asked if there was anything he wanted, and he asked if he could become a girl. The next day at school, Willie showed up in a dress. Aya's mother notices the painting again with 18 apostles, just like in a baseball team. Aya reveals her powers to Willie by multiplying a sandwich. She listens to Willie's heartbeat and says his song is La Mer, and that she'll invent a dream for Willie. That night, Willie wakes up and hears La Mer playing, seeing a hologram of a fish. The next day, Willie tells Aya that the fish wants to return to the sea, and Willie wants to visit since he has a week left to live. The two hold hands while the other apostles, Victor and the gorilla, listen to them, planning to help the children. On Monday, Willie sells their furniture to fund his journey to the sea. On Tuesday, Aurélie tells Francois to stop assassinating. Then, on Wednesday, Martine's gorilla scares her husband away. On Thursday, Mark shares an intimate night with Xenia. On Friday, Aya and Willie spend their days as months. Finally, on Saturday, Jean-Claude reaches the Arctic Circle. On that day, God gets deported to Uzbekistan for not having papers. On Sunday, the apostles gather by the sea with other people who also plan to die there, and Willie's fish returns to the sea. They sit, and Willie asks if there's any chance of avoiding death. Saddened, Aya says there's a chance, hoping for a miracle. Meanwhile, Aya's mother joyfully cleans her apartment and enters God's office, unplugging his computer to plug in her vacuum. As Willie waits to die, Victor reads lines from the Brand New Testament until Martine notices an airplane falling. On the plane back to Uzbekistan, God experiences turbulence and sees the broken engine. After cleaning, Aya's goddess mother plugs the computer back and sees it working again. The plane nearly crashes but recovers. Everyone survives and the death dates get deleted. Aya's mother uses the computer to restore humanity. She changes the sky with flowers and Aya recognizes her mother's doing. The apostles achieve happiness as Jean-Claude meets a woman. Mark and Xenia enjoy the seabeds, Martine and the gorilla have a child, and Victor publishes the Brand New Testament, revealing it to be drawings of symbols instead of words. Aya and Willie kiss, and Aurelie gets Francois pregnant. In Uzbekistan, God works as a washing machine factory worker, miserable, searching for a passage back home with no success.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.